Tommy.
We're here.
We're here.
We are live, baby.
We're live. Special trade deadline edition of the Old Men and the Three here on our YouTube channel. We should talk about the fact that last night we were in Boston. We recorded a live show at the Crystal Ballroom with Marcus Smart.
Sold out live show.
Yeah, it was great.
Shout out to those fans.
Shout out to Marcus for helping us put on a great show.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We also recorded with another Boston Celtics player that's particularly popular earlier in the day.
To be revealed next week.
So we're gonna have some good Celtics content for you coming up, and they are one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Tommy, where do you want to start this? Where do you want to start?
All right, let's go. We're not even going to beat around the bush. First of all, where does today rank, in your opinion, in terms of biggest, splashiest trade deadline deals, maybe ever?
Wow.
So in terms of the stakes of what today was, because I can't remember that many that had players like this going back and forth, especially knowing that they're probably going to meet in 3 months.
Yeah, that to me is what makes this so unique. Former MVP, of course, and James Harden, All NBA level player. Another All NBA level player, Ben Simmons, trading within the same division, and they're both contenders. And if I'm being honest, I think they both got better. Now I want to talk a little bit about the ancillary pieces in this trade, but if we just look at the Sixers, what they got James Harden, shot creation, playmaking. Joel doesn't run a ton of pick and rolls as the screener where he's actually rolling, but I think this gives them another option offensively where they can operate two-man together at the top of the key, and maybe we see more rolls out of Joel. That's typically when James has been at his best in pick and rolls. For the Nets, I love this deal for the Nets. I love it for the Nets. I've always said this. Ben Simmons, his best position in the playoffs is as a five-man, a playmaking five that switches multiple positions. He can't do that on the Sixers. No. It's one of the reasons it's always been very clunky in the playoffs. You've got Joel Embiid at the five. He's the best player on the team. You can't play Ben at his best position in the playoffs. I really think that's his best position. There's always this question mark right now with the Nets about Kyrie's availability in the playoffs, and they have a ton of road games coming up. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out in the rest of the regular season in terms of their record and their seeding. But to me, they got better.
Well,
the other guy,
I was going to say, and then I know you're about to get to this, so I'll just throw to you. But, I mean, we should talk about the Seth addition for the Nets as well, because this has been a team, we don't know whether Joe's coming back, and this has been a team that has desperately needed more help shooting, just more help in the perimeter in general. And this is a guy who's done this in the playoffs. I mean, they would have never been able to get a guy like Seth Curry otherwise at the deadline.
No, I get it's a big loss for the Sixers, and they don't have necessarily Maxi's shooting the ball great this year. They don't have an elite 3-point shooter that has a proven track record like Seth Curry. They're missing that piece now. I like that Philly was unwilling to give up Maxey and unwilling to give up Matisse. You are absolutely going to need Matisse guarding people in the playoffs. So keeping those two guys was big. But the loss of Curry is huge. And on the Nets side, I don't know. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Harris. Patty Mills has been unreal this year. Unreal. Arguably, having his best season as an NBA player, shooting the shit out of the ball, and you've now just added another guy in Seth Curry that can shoot. Ben Simmons, over the last 4 seasons, whatever it is, he has been as good or better, the best, at anyone in the league in terms of creating open threes for teammates. To me, that's one of his superpowers. Of course, defensively, he has a bunch of superpowers, but his superpower offensively is creating open three. I know. I was the beneficiary of that. He's as good as anyone in the NBA at doing that. Here's the deal with this trade. In the short term, it's a win. I think in the long term, there are some question marks here. And we have talked on the podcast, Tommy, a couple weeks ago about how you basically, if I'm Daryl Morey and I'm the Sixers, I have to make a move. I have to get something for Ben. Obviously, their patience paid off, and they were able to get the guy they wanted in James Harden. But there's some risk here. You're gonna have to max out Harden.
Yep.
He opted in. He's gonna sign an extension 6 months from now. It's gonna be worth a lot of money, and you're gonna be paying a guy who, as he's gotten older, has gotten a little heavier and has a hamstring issue that's been ongoing now for close to a year. So there's some risk there. But again, I think your window's there, and you had to make this move. Do you disagree that you had this is
no? I thought we talked about this today. You know, when everything was going down. To me, this was a win-win-win-win-win. It was a win for everybody. It was a win for both teams. A win for every player involved. I think every player is, with the exception, I mean, maybe not Seth and Drummond, but the two sort of primary guys are both happier now than they were, 10 hours ago. It's a win for the TV networks. It's a win for Twitter. It's a win for people comment about this shit. It is like it is gold. And I think that I just think the thing which is so fascinating about it is because it is, two teams that are 90 miles from each other or whatever it is. Like they're going to meet on March 10th. First of all, get your popcorn ready for that. I think we will be at that game. I don't remember whether it's in Philly or Brooklyn, but either way.
It's in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in Philly, we're definitely going to be at that game. But I also just think that, this is I think both of these teams before today were sort of like, I mean, obviously the Nets had lost 9 in a row without Kevin. We're kind of limping into the playoffs. They were like, they have the pieces where they can make a run where you couldn't count them out for making a finals run with a guy like Joel and a guy like KD, but they were very limited. Now they're both significantly stronger. I think the people that are unhappy today are Milwaukee and Miami. I think those are the guys who were like, oh, we're not really scared of the Nets and we're not really scared of Philly before today. And now both of those have taken massive jumps.
It's a valid point. RJ, Richard has said this a couple times over the last few weeks, talking about the Sixers and the Nets relative to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Heat. The Bucks and the Heat, those are two teams where it seems like everybody's moving in the same direction. The Golden State Warriors, everybody's moving in the same direction. The Phoenix Suns, everybody's moving the same direction. Memphis Grizzlies, like those to me are the 5 best teams in the league. And before today, of course, those I think are the 5 best teams in the NBA. And now with Harden going to Philly, where by all accounts he wanted to be, Ben getting out of Philly and going to a situation that is going to be great for him in a big market.
I think best case scenario for him.
Best case scenario for Ben Simmons, 100%. Now all of a sudden you have 2 more teams that are moving in the same direction. The finish of this regular season in the Eastern Conference, and we'll talk about this a ton next week with Marcus and our other Celtics guests. The Celtics right now are 4.5 games out of first place. They were 18-21. They've gone on this incredible run, 13-4. They're second in the NBA in defense. Their net rating over these 17 games, they're mushing people. They're just destroying people. And to me, this is the trade that is really not being talked about. Like we're going to get to Porziņģis, we're going to get to Tyrese in a second. The Derrick White trade's a big deal. I think the Celtics got better today. They have more flexibility now with their roster because they got off so many different guys. He's a more dynamic offensive player than Josh Richardson. He hasn't been a great 3-point shooter. It's only, I think, been above league average once in his career, but he's had a couple years where he shot the shit out of the ball in the corner. So playing off the ball with Jason and Jalen as the creators, this to me is again a big pickup for the Celtics.
Do you feel like Derrick White is one of those guys that because he's sort of come into his own on a Spurs team, it's a little bit like Murray. Now, obviously, he made the All-Star team, but like no one really watches them.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't watch their games, and so you don't know how good he is. You've played against him a bunch, and he's lit, not you up personally, but he's lit teams you've been on up a bunch, so you've seen it. But he can fill it up as well as anybody.
Well, think about that playoff run that the Spurs had, pre-COVID, when he was just amazing in that first round. No, I really like him as a player. And if you talk to people around the league and even internally with some guys on the Spurs, they were really high on him. They felt like he was actually an overlooked guy. Teams call the Spurs. The Spurs have pieces and they have good young players. And I think the Celtics got a great one. I love this trade for the Celtics. Dallas Wizards. We're going to get to the real head scratcher, which is the Tyrese trade. But this one's a little weird to me. It's a little weird to me. So Dallas got off a huge contract. They were able to then sign an extension to Dorian Finney-Smith earlier today. But they took back a lot of money, and it's not dead money like or expiring money where after this season they're not going to have anything on the books. They've got Jalen Brunson coming up for unrestricted free agency. So they've got Dinwiddie and Bertans making roughly $34 million over the next couple seasons. Bertans has not been a good player since he signed his massive deal. Hopefully there's something left in there. The wild card here to me is like, what version of Spencer Dinwiddie are we getting? How is his body?
That's a big wild card. I don't know why. I mean, just being honest, I don't know why as a Mavericks fan you would feel super confident that you're getting the best version, because we didn't see it in DC. And there's a reason why Brooklyn really didn't. I mean, there's many reasons why they didn't want him back, but a major reason was, it's a big question mark. Doesn't it feel like a disappointment, for this to be the return for Kristaps?
I'm pretty sure they also sent out a draft pick. They sent out a draft pick. I think they sent out a second round pick. It's just a head scratch. I don't know that it makes the Mavericks better. I understand the desire to add that third ball handler. Like this is going back to last summer. This was a huge priority for them, is adding that third ball handler. Jalen obviously is having a great season, but adding a third guy that can handle the ball and create and take something off of Luka. But look, here's the reality: when we get to the playoffs, Luka is going to have the ball in his hands every possession for 40 minutes out of the game. He's going to create on nearly every possession. That's how Dallas plays. That's how Luka plays in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if this helps you in the playoffs. I don't know. I don't get this trade.
Yeah, who's happy right now are the Wizards. They were a team going nowhere, and these are two guys who were, not really adding much to the equation. You could argue both were, not great deals to you sort of have been given, and they got off both of them. And I think Kristaps, you don't know what you're going to get, but the upside is still there.
I do think there's upside. I want to speak. There's a lot of things that at this point in his career are said about him in a very negative way. I know Tim Legler roasted him a bit, saying that he's a unicorn because you don't ever see him. And certainly there's health issues there, or health concerns, I should say. I got to give the guy credit. He's been much better defensively. That team has been better defensively, and a big reason is when he's been on the court, he's been much better defensively. I think of all the centers in the league that have defended a high number of shots at the rim, I think he's like 14th in the league. Like, and that's tremendous based on where he was at the previous years. We just full transparency, guys. Here, we tried to get Tyrese to come on. He's going to come on the show. He'll be on the show. We tried to get him on the live show. Understandably, he's still going through it right now. I went on NBA Today when this happened the other day, and I probably was maybe too harsh on the Kings, and I want to be very clear about this. Domantas Sabonis is a really good basketball player. Clearly, he's an all-star. It just doesn't move the needle for the Kings at all, though. I don't. Again, he doesn't shoot threes. De'Aaron Fox doesn't shoot threes. They got Harrison Barnes basically that can space the floor. I don't know how this is going to sort of work in terms of getting them Where? Into the play-in game? Is that the goal here? Guess what? The Pelicans got better too, and I think the Pelicans will probably have a great chance to be in that play-in game.
Yeah,
I don't understand it, and the big reason I don't understand it is because you're a small market team who's had some misses in the draft. You've had a bunch of misses in the draft. You have a guy in Tyrese who falls to you. He falls in your lap. A bunch of teams should have drafted him.
From the guy.
Could have used him. And he wanted to be there. He wanted to be part of the turnaround. And they traded him. And I just don't get that logic. And I saw a stat earlier today. It's like 21-year-old guards that average, and there's, or have averaged over 14 a game, over 7 assists a game, and over 40% from three. It's Tyrese. Ever.
What?
There's one.
And I would also say, and I'm curious what you think about this. Woj talked about this an hour or two after the trade happened, and we just, not even from Tyrese, we just know this from other people around the league. Tyrese's value around the league is about as high as it gets, with everybody from owners and GMs and other players on down across the board. And basically, I think the word Woj used was stunned, but it was very clear that a lot of teams, if they had known that they could get him, they might have made – I mean, Sabonis is a great player. Sabonis is an all-star.
Right. But he's clearly his value because they got an all-star.
But the Kings clearly did not do diligence on who else they could have traded for, if they had decided to pull the trigger on trading Tyrese. And it just felt very Kings. It felt like they locked in on Sabonis. They offered Fox, and he said no. And so they're like, all right, well, the best thing we can offer is Tyrese. And so they did that, which doesn't feel that different from when they had the chance to draft Luka.
I want to be very clear on something else. I want to say one other thing just real quick about basketball and how basketball works. I understand that we can all count from 1 to 25 or 1 to 30 or 1 to 10. And so I went on ESPN and I said, the Kings just traded their best player, which is true. If we look at counting stats, yes, De'Aaron Fox averages more points. I understand that. Okay. There's really no statistical measure that you can look at this season that doesn't say Tyrese Haliburton has been the best player for the Kings. All of the all-encompassing advanced stats, single metric stats, who is the best player? It's been Tyrese, and the second best player on the team for the Kings this year has been Harrison. That is a fact, okay? That is a fact. I don't give a fuck how many points a guy averages. That doesn't mean shit. Tyrese Haliburton plays basketball exactly how basketball should be played. I love watching that guy play, and I know I'm biased on this.
But it's all. I think we should say we should shout out the Pacers for a second. It's a great look for them. I mean, they're doing the rebuild thing. They got more moves to make. They're not done with this, and I don't necessarily think that they think they're winning a championship next year or anything like that. But this is I think they were pretty adamant that they were going to move Sabonis regardless. And so if you can end up with a guy like Tyrese for this is another gift.
Right. No other major trades to discuss that I think I want to talk about. The one thing I know, Tommy, I get on these teams, and we've done this before with the Heat. We've done it now with the Grizzlies. I'm doing it now with the Suns. But I got to say, small thing, but getting Torrey Craig back is a great deal. Getting him back is a great deal. That is an area of need. I know they have Mikal and Jay and Cam Johnson, but you can't have enough big wing defenders in the playoffs. Yeah. And he was really good for him last year. He was really good for him. He worked that into a nice 2-year deal from the Pacers, and he's back. Getting JaVale McGee for cheap in free agency, and then having Bismack Biyombo turn into the version of Bismack Biyombo that we all thought maybe he could be when he was drafted in the lottery. They could afford to get off Jalen Smith. They have 3 centers in case they face a Giannis or in case they face a Joel Embiid in the finals, a Jokic in the Western Conference playoffs. Like, they have everything they need, and this is like the cherry on top. Getting Torrey Craig, it's a good deal for them.
Are you surprised the Lakers didn't do anything?
No, I mean, no. I'm not surprised the Lakers didn't do anything. I'm more surprised the Lakers didn't do anything stupid.
I mean, there wasn't too much they could do to be. There wasn't too much that they could do. I think that it is. I mean, I know Knicks fans feel the same way. They're in a little bit different situation, but it's so dark there right now, and it's everywhere. You can players feel it, the management feels it, the fans feel it. It's so dark there, and so you think, even if it's a small thing, just like I just don't see how you just go through the next 3 months status quo and think that one day you're gonna something is gonna change. There's enough of a sample size at this point to know what you know, and obviously hopefully AD stays healthy and everything. But everyone's playing now. There's not a question of oh, when so and so gets back. I mean, I guess Kendrick Nunn is the only one, but when so and so gets back, things are going to change. No, they're here. This is what you got.
That's the team. They got to figure out if they can make it work. It hasn't worked so far. We've got a decent size of a sample here.
Yep.
I'm not bullish on them turning things around, and that's including with LeBron again having a great season.
Unbelievable season.
I want to say one thing real quick. Did you watch the All-Star selections?
Yes, yeah, it was hilarious.
So good.
It was great TV. Just great.
It was great TV. The TNT crew was great, and Kevin not picking James and picking Rudy Gobert. I mean, I fucking love the NBA.
Guys,
I fucking love the NBA.
March 10th is going to be a movie.
Yeah.
I just hope I hope everybody plays. I hope that there's no injuries, there's no rest day, there's no anything. It's we need everybody. We need everyone on the court for that game because the fans of Philly are definitely going to be circling that one. And I think that it's just, doesn't it feel a little bit like this gets back to some of the old NBA where these teams don't like each other? These teams are not go for across the board now after this trade, and they had to work together to make this trade happen. Like we talked about before, it's a positive for both teams basketball wise, but there's definitely a lot of sour energy on both sides of how everything.
And don't forget what has happened in two of the prior games this season with KD and Joel going back at it at the end of the game and them trolling each other.
Yeah.
That game's going to be lit, and I'm that we get a playoff series, Nets Sixers playoff series. I need it in my life, injected into my veins. Guys, thanks for stopping by and listen to us talk about the trades. Go check out the Desmond Bain episode from this week. One of our favorite young guys in the league. Hopefully, we'll have him back on a bunch. And then we got awesome stuff coming for you. The Marcus Smart show is awesome. Our other interview with the Celtics player is just as good, if not better. We got great content coming for you guys. Go hit the subscribe button. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.